Hello and welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast with me, Mark Bracknell, Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. Today, we welcomed on Jason Pritchard, the CEO of Fit Factory. This was an unbelievable episode, and Jason's journey itself is inspirational. He started off struggling at school, ended up, unfortunately, being homeless for a couple of months, and then fast forward to where he is today, Business Leader of the Year, multiple awards, helping hundreds of manufacturing and engineering companies through digital transformation. It was an unbelievable story and one I couldn't wait to record because I think it is perfect timing right now with manufacturing engineering companies looking how they can automate, innovate, and essentially improve their process within the factory. So we talk about all that. We talk about when to start this journey, how you start to automate your process, automate a factory, start to engage with that digital transformation, and actually how you start with a zero cost. And we really debunk some myths here about the cost implications of the digital transformation automation piece. So it's going to be one of those episodes where you're going to take a lot away, where you can actually start on this journey today, which is going to help you, which is going to help your staff, it's going to help your future staff, and help trying to attract new people in your business. I love this episode. It was brilliant. It was everything I hoped it would be and more, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it as well. So please sit back and listen or watch, whatever you prefer to do. Please do me honor of just clicking that like and subscribe button. It really helps help grow the show and grow the channel. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy. Excellent. So a massive warm welcome today to Jason Pritchard, the CEO of Fit Factory. How are we doing, Jason? All right?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one, mate. This it's going to be a multifaceted one. I couldn't wait for this episode, so no pressure. But first question is the same question I ask everyone. What does it mean to you to be a leader?
I was having to think about this, sort of what does it mean for me to be a leader? I think the main things for me, are about inspiring and empowering my team to be able to achieve the goals that we set as a business. I think leadership's not just about the authority or the control. It's about the influence, the guidance, and mainly the support that you can provide to people. I see my role as a leader at Fit Factory is ultimately to provide support to the team to be able to do the jobs that they're employed to do. I spend a lot of my day is working with people. And I think for me, being a leader is being able to be that person that they can turn to when they need to, give them the empowerment to do what they want to do, knowing that they're accountable for it, but including sort of empathy as a big part of being a leader is understanding and empathy to the team.
Yeah, that empathy piece is interesting, isn't it? Because I don't think that would have been a trait that leaders would have probably mentioned 20 years ago, but it's arguably probably one of the most important ones now, that emotional intelligence piece, isn't it?
Yeah, massively so. And I think for us in the tech sector, we've got a lot of younger sort of generation coming through who love tech and they want to work in the tech sector. And it's so important to have that balance and also to empathize with them a lot that life is hard. Yeah, it is. And being able to sort of be compassionate with them through the struggles they're going through, but also coach them and guide them to be able to sort of better themselves and ultimately obviously do better for the business. But I think it's much more prevalent now to be an empathetic leader.
Yeah, 100% agree. So I'm going to hopefully we'll understand a lot more about Fit Factory and how that benefits the manufacturing sector. Obviously, the bulk of my audience will be from. I think it'll be important to understand a bit more about you and your journey. I've read a bit about your journey; it's inspiring as well, and I think I'd be amiss not to sort of talk through that because I think what you've achieved is fantastic. It was only recently you picked an award for Tees Valley sort of Business Leader of the Year. Is that recent? Was it?
Yeah, that was recent. So this year, won Tees Tech Leader of the Year for 2024, following last year when we won Tech Company of the Year. And also this year was voted in the top 100 inspiring business leaders for engineering and manufacturing in the UK, which was a bit of a surprise, but yeah, nice to have.
100%. And I think it's important to know that, to go right back to the start. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, where you start from. So tell us a bit about that. I mean, did you think you'd be in this position at one stage in your life?
I mean, early on, no, definitely not. So when I left school, I left with no qualifications. So I'm dyslexic. Struggled at school, smart enough, but just couldn't put it down on paper. And then after leaving school, hit a few hard times, struggled, ended up for a month or two being homeless, sleeping on a park bench before I eventually sort of got a council flat. And at that point, no, there was no chance I thought I would have been where I am now. But struggled for a few years after leaving school, and eventually somewhere inside, just this internal drive came to say, I've got to do better than this. And then what happened is sort of over, I think from the age of 22, I'd set myself some goals and said, look, by the time I'm 30, I want to be a director of a company. I didn't know no clue, didn't know how, but I just thought in my head at that age was, well, they earn more money. So that's what I want to do. And then some further goals sort of were by the time I'm 40, I want to be financially free. And then the final one was by the time I'm 50, I'd like to sort of be knighted. And again, for what, I don't know, but I know I'm getting to the point where I enjoy giving back and I enjoy helping the community and working with them. So that's something that will probably come. But if I sort of go back to the early stages, I worked in sales, found some jobs working in sales, was really good at it. And then noticed that I was quite good at training people how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked my way up the ladder in website sales, SEO, content, into kitchen sales, like to business for a large company. And then eventually sort of took a switch into software. And I actually joined a company where I was doing implementations of software, training engineering companies how to use ERP systems. Never used them in my life, didn't even know what they were when I got the job, but I can train people. So I remember sitting in a hotel room, like on a night, learning about works orders and bills of material, and then going into a company the next day, training them on the works orders and bills of material. it was crazy. But yeah, I succeeded in that, which I don't know, that drive of really wanting to do better. I succeeded in that, pushed myself hard. I learned the process improvement came quite natural. I think maybe being dyslexic, we think slightly differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a power that we've got, and along that with a fantastic memory. And then that company sort of hit a bit of a downturn, and it was struggling. And I put my hand up and said, well, I can sell. And I now know why the engineering companies use the software. Mm-hmm. I know how they use the software. I know why it's important to them. And put my hand up and started selling the product. And then within 3 months was made sales director, which was a bit annoying because it was 3 months after my 30th birthday. So I missed my goal.
Can't win them all.
Yeah, you can. And then I did that for a few years before being headhunted to come here. Nearly 4 years ago now, I was asked to sort of come and join and grow the company and join as a CCO. I was here for 2-3 months before they asked me to be the CEO. And since that period, we've grown nearly 40% year on year. I led the company through an acquisition last year by a private equity firm. And this year, again, we're on for circa 30% growth. Mm. So we've turned the business around from a loss-making business to a profitable business in the space of just under 4 years.
Amazing.
I've got an amazing team, which I think has been sort of the catalyst. We've gone from a 70% staff turnover rate to a 0% staff turnover. Mm. In the last 18 months. And I think that consistency has helped. So yeah, really, I would never have thought I would have been in this position, but I love it.
Yeah. And you know what I love so much about the story, but what I love so much about it is the fact that you mentioned there about, perhaps struggling at school because there's dyslexia, but what I hear there is that just wasn't your environment. That just
Yeah.
wasn't your environment to prosper. And I think it's almost everything that's wrong with still is wrong with schools and the curriculum, where we're just tried to be taught how to pass a test. If you pass the test, your class is successful, and so on and so forth. And I think we're at a stage now where you perhaps might see less people go to university because of the debt, and I kind of hope that is the case, because I don't think it's. I went there, but I went there for reasons. I don't think it's the best path for everyone. You're just someone who found your niche and found your environment, and by sounds, you just worked bloody hard to get where you are today.
Yeah, there was a lot of ups and downs, even through that journey, as anybody would have. But I remember somebody asked me, sort of, was there a point where I knew the career that I was going to take, and it's helped me to get to where I am. So I said, no, there wasn't. It's been like a catalyst. There's multiple different points in my life I can pinpoint that have taught me something, and got me to this point where I'm at today. I think things like the empathy part. I had some really rubbish jobs. I remember being in a call center, having to do nearly 350 calls a day on a dialing system, and it was demoralizing. It was a really bad environment to be in, and I hated getting up for work.
Yeah.
And that's something now that I know, and I talk to my team about constantly, is I don't want anybody to have that Sunday night dread.
Yeah.
I want everybody to enjoy working here. We've got goals to hit, but what can we do to make it an enjoyable place? What can we do to give you the work-life balance? And it's more about what I can do for them to make them happy, because if they're happy, then it has shown that they'll work harder. They'll push that extra boundary occasionally when's needed, and they do a good job, a really good job, to be fair. So I think because I do a good job for them, that's my job, is to make them happy and help them to be productive. They do a good job in return.
Yeah. Do you think you have a sort of bigger spectrum of empathy or emotional intelligence because of the place you've been to, in terms of where you've come from? Do you think that is in some way helped who you are today?
Yeah, I think sort of a lot of it, since going through the acquisition, and then this sort of year and last year being a big transitional year and winning the awards and getting quite a bit of recognition. Got a lot of people telling me that I'm doing a great job and that my story's amazing. It's like, but everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own struggles and their own difficulties that they have to go through. But people sort of go, no, but yours is a bit different. It's not the normal one. It's like, well, yeah, but there isn't a normal one.
Yeah, it's just yours.
It's just mine. And yeah, definitely the stuff that I've been through at times I would never want anybody to go through. So if I can help avoid that and help them avoid that, then I'm definitely going to do it.
I think everyone has a story, but not everyone uses it to help others and to inspire others. And essentially, that's what you're doing. If you think your biggest goal now is what you've talked about, that comes from helping others, on a really big scale. And that's what you're going for. That's not intrinsic. Yes, that's purely from helping other people. So I think that's just amazing. And I'm really fascinated by the business, and I'm really it's not a company that I'm connected to, at all. So we can speak really openly about what involves, and it's certainly not a sell. But I think from what I know about it, it couldn't be more ready, the sector, because if I think about the challenges now manufacturing has, the biggest challenge is the fact that we are losing ground and losing market share of manufacturing to other nations. We can use China, can use whoever you want, but we are, and we're getting hammered by price. And all the conversations I have now in terms of, okay, that is the case, that probably isn't going to change. What can we do? Well, we've got to innovate, and we've got to get people to understand how good the UK is within manufacturing because of its innovation, its process, its technology. So I think it's perfect timing for what you do. Would you mind just giving a brief overview of what the business does, so people have got a bit of understanding of that?
Yeah. So we provide digital software to help engineering and manufacturing companies improve their processes. So we refer to something called scale, and we help companies scale through digital transformation. What that stands for is streamline. So streamline your processes and your operations, get rid of waste, get rid of duplication, then connect. So connect your people, plant, products, and processes. So you've got a connected business. Then analyze it. That's the main thing. So once you've got that data, is to get data that you can analyze and you can make real-time decisions based on the information you receive it. Then you use that information to level up your customer service, to level up your delivery, your on-time performance, and use that data. And then you want to, we're classed as extending your ecosystem. So we've got over 400 engineering and manufacturing companies who use our software, predominantly SMEs. So then it's about connecting those businesses together to try and create a circular economy of shared work. They're all in engineering and manufacturing. They all offer different types of processes to each other. They can all add value to each other, but maybe they don't know each other exists because they're focused on keeping their head above water. They're focused on making some profit. Some profit would be nice, some profit out of the parts that they make. So for me, it's then about allowing those engineering companies to connect with each other. So whether it's a heat treatment company connecting with a precision parts company that they don't know each other exist, but they can work with each other. That would be my end goal, is to be able to create that extended ecosystem of Fit Factory customers and allow them to share that work between each other.
Nice. I like that. So you're connecting a real network, which again gets back to pulling on the UK as a powerhouse that we should be able to do that and that collaboration piece. I mean, in your opinion, where is the UK now compared to the rest of the world, would you say?
So it's a tricky one. So I also do advisory work for Make UK in the Northeast, and also the Northern Automotive Alliance around digital transformation. And you've got some really big players. You've got the big boys, the OEMs, who they're quite savvy with their digital, but they've got the money to be able to spend with that. If we look at the supply chain of sort of tier 2 and tier 3, they really are struggling. There was a survey that was ran, I can't remember when it was, but I think it was last year. But effectively, we're ranked quite far down the digital adoption route. In Europe, especially, and Europe isn't the highest in the world. So we've got a lot of work to do. If we look at our competitors in Europe, likes of Germany, etc., they've got things that are in place by the government, which help. So they've got an industry plan, a standardized industry plan that doesn't change with government.
Yeah.
And we need to get something like that in place. Because what that will do is it will give the engineering companies confidence to say, well, we can now start to invest. If that strategy changes for who's in power or who's looking after that department, it doesn't give them the confidence to go and invest in digital. It doesn't give them the confidence to invest in upskilling. And there's no strategy for how we fix that skills gap in the sector. But it also doesn't have any strategy for how we bridge that gap in digital transformation.
Yeah. There's no consistency there. No, I completely hear you there. Do you think for a company or companies not utilizing the digital side now, do you think the barrier is cost or education of how it works? Would you say?
I think for me, it's education, how it works. I think there was a whole thing 3 years ago, 4 years ago, still gets banded around now, Industry 4. I was never a fan of the term. It was jargon that was
4.0.
scaremongering people. It didn't really make any sense. And then they talk about IoT. These are all buzzwords that we don't really like to use here. We keep it simple, and we keep the language simple. And it's a lack of education from a lot of companies to go, well, actually, if I can automate a process using a bit of technology, and that's my biggest pain at the moment, can that make me slightly more efficient? Can it improve my margins slightly more? If it can, great. If it can't, then look elsewhere. There's so many I would say, archaic systems in place that companies have had for such a long time, that potentially work for them in one aspect, but they don't work for them in the rest of the business. So therefore, they've got a shop floor that's disconnected to the main office.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the main office don't know what's going on the shop floor. They can't see live job costing. They can't see live scrap rates. They can't see live machine utilization. And all of the things that actually cost the business money, that they can correct, are on the shop floor.
Yeah.
And yet it's the most disconnected area of the business. And it doesn't need to cost hundreds of thousands. It doesn't even need to cost tens of thousands. It's there's software out there to suit any business, and any business's budget.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
free software out there. There's
yeah.
free software out there that would improve what people do.
And that was going to be my question because, you take now, for example, budgets come out recently, change at NI. Let's say it's costed a company 75 people strong. It's going to cost them additional 90, 100 grand. They've probably gone, oof, we can't recruit now. We can't grow. We've got to get more process driven, which could end up being a positive for the business. Not good for me, but good for the
Yeah,
business potentially. So, but let's say that company is a galvanizes steel for the construction industry. Potentially quite old school in terms of its
yeah.
process. It might not do. It'll do some batch work, but not some bespoke stuff as well. What if you're advising a company like that and they really had no education behind it? What would be the first steps you'd take if they said, we know we need to automate, but budgets are tight? What would be the sort of the sort of starter pack, if you like?
So the first thing that we would look at is, we try and assess where they're losing most of their money, where they're the most inefficient. That could be, on their shop floor, or it could be in the quality department, or it could be in the office. Depending where that is, we'll then sort of deep dive and look at, okay, if we were to improve your processing from order entry in to invoice out and remove the duplication. For example, prime part could be, let's say there's a bottleneck in purchasing, and purchasing department their job is they're just raising purchase orders day on day, and they haven't got a foresight of what orders have already been agreed in the pipeline that are coming next month or 4 weeks down the line. And they're not pre-planning their purchasing because they haven't got visibility of it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to they haven't got time to go and look for best pricing, with maybe a slightly increased lead time. They haven't got time to aggregate their purchasing so they can get a better buying power. Find a lot of companies then pay, because they're doing it such short notice, they end up paying multiple delivery charges, and they get multiple deliveries day after day from a steel provider. All of these are quick wins that you can go, well, let's automate this part of your business, and let's improve that process so we can streamline the sending of a purchase order, because that's really simple. But actually, we can then get your team, who are procurement specialists, to actually reduce and save you money in the quantities that they're buying. Can they get a better buying power with a longer lead time? Can they reduce your delivery costs so you're not paying that, and you can get a better profit margin on that? And these are areas that businesses don't look at all the time, because they're constantly so busy just trying to get the orders through the system that they haven't got time to look at themselves on where they can do process improvement.
And I guess the next step from there, if a company did have some investment behind them, or had some cash to go, we're going to spend to get some real ROI. What are the real meaty things that you can see making real difference? Would you say?
The really meaty things that we're seeing at the moment is the improvement on the shop floor. So machine utilization is a big one. So we won best innovation product with Make UK last year, for our machine monitoring. But there's other machine monitoring systems out there that exist, and what they do is they measure the energy consumption of your machines when they're working, but they also tell you whether they're working, whether they're not, and whether they should be.
Okay.
There's AI tools. We've got AI tools built into the back of ours, which will help to optimize schedule. So it can plan jobs based on energy consumption and energy cost at times. So for example, if you've got a heavy part that needs to be done by X date, if you can rejig your schedule and do it in a more cost-effective period where they're using renewable energies, etc., so your rate is cheaper, but still get it out on time. These are areas where they can improve. But also, we find a lot of companies say that their machines are 100% efficient or utilized, say 100% utilized, where actually they're only 60% efficient.
Yeah.
And then they're not quite familiar or sure how that's happening. So by having a better optimized schedule, which looks at similar parts that are coming down the pipeline, so you have to minimize tool changes, etc. These are all things that will give them an added value and allow them to make more profit at the end of the job.
Interesting. I think you might find companies who have some anxiety, or have you ever had any companies that had some anxiety behind, we want this, but we haven't got anyone on site who'll be able to use this tech? And do you know, is that something you come across?
Yeah, all the time. Because they're not sure. A lot of companies aren't really sure what they can actually do with the data that they get. Yeah. So what we actually do is we'll sit with the companies, and most tech companies will do this, is they'll sit with the companies and they'll understand what's the core information they need to see, which is going to make an impact to the bottom line. And we'll get rid of the rest of the noise. Yeah. If you don't need a rocket ship, there's no point in giving you a rocket ship if you just need a Ford to get you from A to B. And the real good thing around sort of scalable software in modules is historically you would have to buy a CD-ROM, which would have the piece of software on it. You would install it on your server, and you'd have this big behemoth of a product. Now you can have really small modules to suit little areas within the business and get iterative improvements. And we use the term land and expand, because then once you start to see that benefit of that small process that's helped your quality control management area, then they start looking, well, actually my bottleneck or my issues moved from there and it's now over here. What piece of software do you have for that? Okay. But it's about also tailoring the information that they have, so it's actual data that they can use and will have an impact on them.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast with a very quick 30-second description of my business. Theo James are an engineering and manufacturing recruitment search firm based in Durham. We specialise in contract and permanent opportunities, from blue-collar, semi-skilled roles right the way up to C-suite level exec positions. If you're looking for any new additional staff or new opportunity for yourself in the industry, please contact me or the team. There'll be a specialist in your area waiting to help. I'm incredibly proud of this business and what we've built since our inception in 2015. And I would love to extend that service out to you. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the episode. And typically, who in a business do you think should lead this type of stuff? What do you say?
It depends. It needs to have buy-in from the top down. It really does need to have buy-in from the top down and an understanding as to why it's being done and why it's being worked on. But we're looking at people, we deal with anybody from production managers, operations managers, general managers, directors, but then also we're dealing with a lot of businesses now, family-run businesses. Maybe it's a son or daughter who have come into the business, early 20s, maybe late 20s, and they've got a knack for software and they understand it. And they've got an interest, which is the main thing. They've got an interest in it. And we're finding that they're our fastest accelerating companies. We had a post come online this morning, actually, which was from one of our customers who had used software before, but they've now introduced our system in and replaced it. And they were struggling to hit 70% on-time delivery. And this month now they've managed to achieve, I think it was like 93% on-time delivery. But that was the owner who took ownership of that. He just knew that he wanted to improve that and give a better service. And he took the ownership to make sure that he got it implemented and up and running. I think sometimes in the smaller businesses, the owner knows exactly what it is they want to achieve. And you talk about a leader, go outside their comfort zone. Maybe software isn't their comfort zone, but they're showing their team, I'm going to come out my comfort zone here. I'm going to learn this piece of software. And I'm going to learn how it can improve our business.
Yeah, I imagine once it's implemented, once you've gone through that, I guess, initial pain to get things running, it must be so much easier for people in the business, leaders, engineers, maintenance staff, whoever it is, to make decisions based on that data. That must be a eureka moment when that's cracked.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the biggest type of feedback that we get is not, the software does obviously improve what they do, but it's that visibility that they
Yeah,
say to us, wow, we've been doing this job for 15 years and
yeah,
we didn't know we were really losing money on it.
yeah.
Or we didn't know the runtime was actually 5 hours instead of 3 hours, or it's 5 hours, but we're always quoting 6, 7 hours, and we're at risk of losing that job because we're over quoting on it. And another company down the road say it only takes them 5 hours, and they've
Hmm.
got the data to back it up.
Yeah,
And we've always quoted it at 7 hours, but
yeah,
actually we didn't know it actually only took us 5 hours. These
yeah,
are stories that we hear all the time from businesses saying, well, I know my business. I know how it runs. We've got our spreadsheets, maybe. We've got our paper-based systems. And we run a cost analysis after the horse has bolted and the job's already out the door.
yeah. Because that has to be the goal, isn't it? If you can get better projects essentially on board, which can be quicker, more cost effective, higher margins, that must be the end goal for everyone. It's great to look nice, but you've got to use this information for your advantage, haven't you? It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And what you find even more so now is that the more that businesses we're pushing towards net zero,
Yeah.
the bigger supply chain companies are saying, well, I want the data from you. I want to know how efficient you are. I want to know what the carbon output of this part is. And I want to know what systems you've got in place. I want to know that you're reliable, and I want to see that data.
Mhm.
And it's okay saying we've got a system in place and it works, and sometimes you can show them. But what we're now finding is companies are wanting to connect to that data.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, actually, if you've got a system in place, we want to be able to connect to it. Prime example when that comes is you've got a big tier one or an OEM that's got a big system in place, and they want to automate sending purchase orders to you. They don't want somebody sending them. So they want to create a link into your system so they can automatically send purchase orders from theirs, and it creates an order in yours.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when you deliver it in your system, it automatically sends their system a notification to say that it's on its way and it's being delivered. These are things that they're pushing for because they're wanting to automate as well, even further.
Yeah. I spent quite a bit of time with a chap called Phil Atkinson, who's the MD of BTS Fabrication, and they've
Yep.
done amazing stuff on their sustainability. For me, they were trailblazers really in terms of the industry. They did it before most. And he was explaining to me, which I had no idea about, that, if you get assessed, you can be carbon neutral, you can hit your own, but until your supply chain is with you, it's almost
Yeah.
pointless. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I had no idea about that. So it's huge, isn't it? And that's the biggest percentage of people's carbon footprint is the supply
Yeah.
chain, isn't it? Massive.
Yeah. So it's interesting. That's why we went down the route of developing our machine monitoring software. More initially, it was to get overall equipment efficiency, so the OEE of the machines. But then we sort of figured out, well, actually, we're doing it through electrical current. So then what we can do is we can actually convert that current into a carbon output as well as a cost, but we can get an estimated carbon output. And then if we track the life of that part and it's been on this machine, this machine, this machine, we get a collective carbon footprint when it leaves the factory. And what we were then finding is it was actually going from maybe one of our customers who was a precision engineer to a heat treatment company who also used our software to a painting company who also used our software. And
Mhm.
we were then able to sort of get that collective carbon footprint and then give a better scope 3 is effectively that particular area,
Yeah.
and give the OEMs or the tier ones, right? This is from point of conception when it started, and it's gone through this service, this service, this service before it's hit you. And that's when we talk about that extended ecosystem. We want to then be able to use that collective power of a connected supply chain and speak to the tier ones and the OEMs and say, well, look, we've got a connected supply chain that can offer you this whole service, and you can get a carbon footprint from it because it tracks it from point of delivery to you.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll then be able to start winning allowing that supply chain to win work, so our
Yeah.
customers to win work based on their connectivity.
Yeah, love that. It's scope three. That was it. I know it was a term. I know
Yeah.
it was a term. I can forget scope three. You mentioned that sustainability piece, and obviously, there is still funding available for that. They might have cut us for everything else, but there's still funding for that. The does the, it, can companies, to your knowledge, utilize any funding to this and the data piece and what have you? Is that something they could look at?
Yeah, there's still quite a bit of funding around.
Is there?
So you've still got the Made Smarter Fund,
Hmm.
which is a national fund for engineering and manufacturing companies to tap into,
Right.
where they can go on cohorts and training courses. They can get an understanding of where they are digitally, and then they can apply for some funding. I think it's match funding up to sort of 50,000, I think, on some projects. And that's purely on digital transformation to make things smarter.
Yeah.
So that's there. Some of the councils still have funding available for digital transformation. And then we work on some of the bigger projects with some of our customers through Innovate UK. So if we're looking at things like the machine monitoring, we actually did with 3 or 4 of our customers as a cohort. We applied through Innovate UK to develop the product. They then get the product out at the end of it, but it's built for the market, and they were allowed to be case studies for us and help us direct in what we needed to build for them.
Nice, excellent. So I also think that the timing of all this could be better because, again, what's the challenge in manufacturing? Skill shortages, not enough good, young people coming through. Young people want to be involved in tech. They want
Yeah.
automation. They. I think engineering still has a bit of a connotation of just a dirty job and blue overalls, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Now there's some really sexy roles out there. Do you know what I mean? People can get involved in. So I think this is where this is where companies can again use this type of stuff to their advantage because young people now want to be part of this type of stuff as well, don't they?
Yeah, I mean we've seen an increase in our customer base. We do some work with universities, we do work with colleges, so we allow them to use our software to upskill sort of students
Nice.
whilst they're learning their apprenticeships or their degrees. And that works really well for us because they then leave that environment and join a business in practice. And they're able to say, well, actually, like, there are software out there that can help improve this. And what it does, in essence, obviously, it makes a business much more functional and much more profitable because you're removing waste, which engineering and manufacturing has been great at doing through Lean and Six Sigma. And those processes of reducing waste on the shop floor. But they've never been great at reducing waste in administrative tasks.
Yeah.
And this is where technology can allow them to really fly. And then what it allows them to do is focus on what we say is more added value activities. So we talk about procurement as an example, rather than just sending purchase orders, because that can just be automated. Once you know what you need to buy and you've got a supply chain that you're going to buy from, right? My procurement team really should be focused on getting me the best possible price, the best delivery profile with the cheapest delivery options, and really trying to maximize my spending power. Same for quoting is a lot of companies, if they do repeat parts and things like that, maybe they haven't got an up-to-date price on what it actually cost them. So what they end up doing is they end up quoting it at the price they sold it for last time, not knowing that it actually made a loss because they needed to do some amendments. And by having all of that rolled in and say, well, actually use the last price that it cost me and put that in, and then put my uplift and margin on it and automate that process. These are all sort of quick wins that companies don't really know that can be added through using tech.
Yeah, I completely agree. What's the risk of not adopting tech, in your opinion?
I think we'll be left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and we will be left behind through not through the lack of skills that we've got and the parts that we can push out, but the lack of connectivity that people want. We're in a day and age now that, if you think about historically, you would order something online. I'll use that as an example. And you'd have to wait in all day. Nobody wants to wait in all day anymore. They want to know that my driver is 2 stops away and I've got enough time to get back.
Yeah.
So as consumers, naturally, doesn't matter whether if it's a business to business consumer and work, they want that real time information. They want to know what's going on, how efficient you are. They want that data when they want it. They don't want to wait to come and audit you. They don't want to wait to know that to find out that you're going to be late. They want that information live and as fast as possible. And that's just going to become more and more and more, because ultimately we're dealing with humans. And it doesn't, we take our own habits from our day-to-day life, we bring them into work. And you sit and you say, well, why do I need to sit and wait in all day? I wouldn't, and that would stop me from buying somebody. I don't know about you, but if you had two choices of delivery, one that said, right, well, you have to wait in all day and it's 8 and 8, or one that said, we'll give you half an hour time slot of when it's going to be delivered. Maybe one was £10 more, £20 more. Sit there and go, well, I need to be out that day, so I'm going to pick that one because that's going to be more convenient for me.
Yeah.
Change when you get into business.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. What do you say to people who, which they do, go, automation is going to be the death of, so it's going to be the death of jobs? Do you mean when you get that myth, when you get people saying that, what in reality do you see in 15, 20 years time manufacturing engineering looking like once this has been fully adopted, do you think?
I think ideally it for me, I would hope and I would expect it to go down the route of, it's not about replacing jobs, it's allowing the people to do the people part better. Okay, that's really what it should be. There's no need to spend the time on the phone phoning around your suppliers to check what's happening anymore. So actually what you can do is it will allow you to forge better relationships. It'll allow you to spend time on the stuff that's important: customer relationships, supplier relationships, people relationships. And I think using technology will enhance that. And what actually I would hope is we'll take away the mundane stuff that can be done by computers, and we then introduce the stuff that can't be done by computers, that personal relationships, that personal connectivity. And ultimately, it will still be people buy from people. You build those long-term foundations based on the people and the trust that you build with them. So I would hope and expect that actually it will improve that. It will reduce that. We're so busy, blinkers on, we need to get this order out. I can't speak to them anymore because I've got to send this order out. Then I've got to follow up with this task. And that can all be done now. And actually now we can focus on the people side and building stronger relationships.
Yeah. I completely agree. Like, on everything said there, because it's even like, you know, in a world where, which there probably will be, where you can pick up the phone and let's say that supplier is, let's say there is a robot. If it is a robot, and I know it's a robot, doesn't care how well they communicate, I don't want to speak to them. Do you know what I mean? I still want that, because I'll just feel that this isn't real. I want to speak to a human being. But if that human being is armed with information and data to make our conversation a higher level, it's a win-win. So I completely agree. Completely.
I think we go back to when we talk about leadership, and that's empathy and empowerment and things. At this moment in time, you've got AI, you've got all these things. I think we're far away from that, especially with the industries we're talking about, SME engineering and manufacturing. They're never going to be able to have that empathy. And I would do exactly the same. I don't want to speak to a robot. I don't want to speak to an AI chatbot. I want to speak to a person.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to do the business. That's where we're going to get to know each other. And I think that just empowering the people to have that information at the touch of their fingertips and get rid of the mundane stuff, you'll get better productivity from people. They'll add more value to the business because they'll be able to build stronger relationships, whether that's through increase in orders, whether that's now increased in profit margins, whether that's a reduction in your spend through better relationships with the suppliers. This is stuff that we see on a daily basis through the companies that we are working with and we have digitalized, is that they don't lose jobs. In fact, they win more work.
Yeah.
And they make more profit.
Yeah.
And they get better buying power, and they can send the jobs out faster and more on time, and they've got happier customers. You rarely see an MD who's bought some software from us, buying it to replace people's jobs, because that's not what it's there to do. It's to make their people's jobs easier so they can do more added value activities for the business.
Yeah, 100%. The final question I was going to ask you, which you probably answered anyway, so I might test you if you think of anything else, but are there any myths that we haven't debunked in this episode that frustrate you, that you hear on a weekly basis that just aren't true? I've debunked a few already, to be fair.
Well, I'll probably say something a bit controversial, because basically everything that we've said is that technology will transform your business. It won't. And the reason why I'll say it won't is it won't if you just expect it to do it on its own. Yeah, you have to be involved in that. It needs the people side of it. And we do get a lot of companies who contact us, who have contacted us, who want to buy the piece of software, and they just think it's going to revolutionize their business with no effort from them. It's like, no, it's a piece of software. It's only as good as the information you put in it. So if you put crap in, you get crap out. It's right. It's there to be used as a tool to make things better.
Yeah.
It's not going to solve all of your problems if your problems are people problems.
Yeah, I love that. It's a bit like you hire someone to do a role. Doesn't mean you need someone to work with them. I hire a marketeer.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean just hire them and go, right, get me more work. You have to work with them, give them information for them to be creative to do so. You can't just leave them to crack on and do so. It's the same, isn't it? It's same with data. It's that collaboration piece. I think that's a really, really good myth debunk. I think that's superb. Just finally, in terms of for Fit Factory, you've already mentioned some exciting stuff on the horizons. What's the next sort of 12 to 18 months looking like?
I think for us, the next 12 to 18 months is continuous growth. We've got some new products that are coming out next year to again help the engineering manufacturing companies in areas that we see that we're still lacking in our offering. The technology changes so fast; it's crazy, and we need to be able to get enough of an upkeep on it to mean that we're not constantly changing it for customers. So we've got to build that sort of core base, which will be there for 10, 15 years. And it will allow it to improve, but not go out of date. We've got some really exciting products that we'll be launching next year. Again, continuous growth as we have been, really just much of the same, I think.
Yeah, I love it, mate. And look, thank you so much, because I was looking for this episode, and it certainly did not disappoint, because I just knew it would add value, because I just think the timing right now, it couldn't be better, because companies are, some companies are really struggling. Some companies have suddenly got, big old payrolls, and, the can's getting kicked still on projects, and it's a difficult time for businesses. This is a time sometimes you have to look to change things and be more efficient. So I think the stuff you've talked about today will definitely erase some fear that these things have to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. You have to wait 10 years to get return on investment. You can start small, build it up, and then gradually start to build the better things. And I think that's important for people to know. And it needs to happen, because I'm really passionate about UK manufacturing, and it just pains me right now to see the way it's going. I had on someone a few weeks ago and said, do you reckon we've got 2 years to turn around? And I agree. And I think she mentioned it herself. What will change it? Digital transformation, because we can be the best at that. And I think you've communicated that perfectly. What's the best way to find you, would you say, to sort of engage with you or the business?
I think for us, they can visit our website. So that's fitfactory.com. You can follow us on social media. Not to be confused with the gym. There's also called Fit Factory, so Fit Factory Technologies. There's a franchise in America called Fit Factory, which is a gym. They won't help. I get you personally, but not the business.
You're good, man. And you have kindly said you will be one of the speakers at the event I'm running on the 15th of May. So it's the first time I've talked about in this podcast. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, Jason. Really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manufacturing Leads podcast. It absolutely means the world to me. Please let me know if you need any assistance. As a business, we look at providing partnerships with manufacturing engineering companies to really help their recruitment and retention on the recruitment piece, anywhere from blue collar, semi-skilled staff, right the way up to C-suite level executive appointments, but also much more than that. We run events, so please let me know if you're interested in any of those. If you are interested indeed becoming a podcast guest, be very, very keen to speak to you as well. More than happy to do so. But as a business, as I say, we look at key partnerships to really help your recruitment, your retention, your marketing, your training. We really believe in the partnership piece and being an extension of your business. So we're very proud to work in this sector. I love manufacturing engineering, and my staff are just as passionate about it as I am. So thank you once again for listening. Please get in touch to talk about anything we can do to help. Look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thank you.